to at FVZ Headful on Twitter or Facebook.com/Francis von Zerneck, you'll be able to see the video of this the third segment. Yeah, yeah. So I just wasted 3 minutes of the show by saying that. All right. So anyway, we were talking about Flashdance.
Yeah.
And I try, because this is the way my mind works, I try to see little connections between each movie. And now, to me, there are similarities between Jennifer Beals' character and Bruce Lee in the way that these are very strong, independent, quiet, cool, but with a fire inside them. That when it comes to it, they're strong, powerful people who have their own path.
Yeah, and I love that about that movie. I loved, and still love Flashdance, because it was the story of somebody who was doing what they needed to do to survive, but their dream and the thing that they were passionate about was kind of on the back burner. And it took a tremendous amount of courage to kind of step out on faith and try something. And, you know, there were a lot of obstacles against Alex succeeding. She wasn't a trained dancer. She just loved to dance, and, you know, she was kind of working in this place that was questionable. She was kind of a stripper, and so it was about not being taken seriously. And I think you're right. When I think about the path that I've chosen again in becoming an actress, not having known that was what I was going to pursue in my life or do with my life, there's a lot of similarities in terms of the obstacles against me.
Okay, and you were saying about how before there was, like, you know, people like Pam Grier and Cicely Tyson even, you know, but these were heavily associated with being African American.
Absolutely.
Where,
and I had always been, I mean, I'm African American, but I'd always been kind of perceived as other because of the color of my skin and my hair texture. And so, you know, when I was around Latin people, particularly growing up in New York, people thought I was Puerto Rican or Dominican. You know, I do have some Asian in my family as well, on my mom's side, so, as well as actually Native American on my father's side. So, you know, people were kind of like, I was a bit racially ambiguous. People were always trying to figure out what my ethnicity was, and so Jennifer Beals had that same kind of thing happening.
And that's interesting. Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah. Now, when you saw it in the theater, do you remember what theater you saw it in?
No, I don't.
You don't? Oh! You saw it in New York, but you don't know, uptown, downtown, midtown?
I'm sure.
You don't remember sitting in the theater with your dad?
Here's the thing. My father, I blame him. He moved so many times. I mean, I lived in my house 9 years, and this is the longest I've ever lived anywhere in my life. My father was like a rolling stone. He lived all over Manhattan. In fact, whenever I'm with him now, and we're back in the city, you know, there's always a story about a woman he dated that lived in this building, or he lived in that building, or he worked at, I mean, it's really like a tour guide. It's like a star's tour guide, except it's my dad's sexual past that is flashing before my eyes.
Oh, okay. Let's move on then. Hello! What was your dad like? Is your dad one of these Bruce Lee, Jennifer Beals types?
No.
But that was a weird thing to say. You know, he's like a Bruce Lee, Jennifer Beals type. No, but with that strong fire, quiet, cool. No. Okay.
My dad is extremely charming. He's very smart. He's easy to talk to. He's kind of girly, my dad. Not in the sense that he's effeminate, but he's totally into culture, and he loves to dance, and he loves to talk. I mean, my husband is like, God, your dad talks a lot. He's definitely not like the typical guy's guy, though he played sports, and he likes sports, and all that kind of stuff. But he really loves culture, and he really loves great food, and he loves to sit down and talk. I mean, my father and I can literally, like, chat for hours.
What if you
my
had
mom and I are off the phone in 10 minutes.
Oh,
so.
Yeah, I like that. I don't like to talk on the phone.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But that should inform you of something.
If you had to compare him to a character in a movie or an actor, not his looks, but what would you do? Your dad.
My dad. Who would he remind me of? He's very sweet. Oh, gosh. I'm making him sound like he's gay. He's not. But he's really
All right, think about it. I want to revisit that as we go on.
Okay.
What's your next movie?
Okay, so the next movie that we have to talk about is Aliens.
The second one, the James
second
Cameron one. Did you see the first one?
Yes.
And that and then you went back
Yes.
in 1986.
Six.
Oh, really? Okay, all right. You saw that in New York?
Saw it in New York.
Saw it in New York. Do you remember what theater?
No.
The Ziegfeld. I think you saw it in the Ziegfeld.
We'll say I saw.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of movies at the Ziegfeld.
Yeah, so that seems
was
like
actually
the
one of my
Ziegfeld
favorite
movie.
theaters.
Yeah.
But, so we'll
Majestic movie theater.
We'll
Yeah.
say I saw it.
You saw it at the Ziegfeld. End of story. And so you went and like the opening weekend. You were
Yes.
very excited because
Oh.
Alien was such
Alien was
an
a
important
huge movie.
movie.
Scared the crap out of me. I
Yeah.
think I had to sleep with my mom for like 5 nights because I was terrified. But when the second one came out, I remember it was definitely opening weekend, and I was on the edge of my seat. Couldn't wait to see it.
Now, were you a little in the beginning? Were you a little disappointed? Like, this is not really a sequel to Alien in the fact that it's a completely different kind of movie, a completely different look, voice,
No.
everything.
No, I wasn't.
No?
I wasn't disappointed.
Like
at all.
thrown, not disappointed, but
I
thrown.
think
like,
maybe
whoa,
thrown,
like,
but here's the thing.
it's its own movie. It
It
stands
is
on its own.
and it stands on its
yeah.
own. And
That's
the
why it's
thing
so
that
great.
that I love about it is that it's one of those movies where you get into that debate. Has there ever been a movie where the sequel was as good as the
Right,
first?
yeah.
This is one of those movies that you can say, yeah, the sequel was as good, if not better.
Yeah, because it's a different kind of movie, and
Yeah.
it's not trying to be another thing,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. And it's a continuation.
And it's a continuation.
Okay, so you were sitting in the Ziegfeld.
Yes.
and you saw Aliens.
Yes.
And why? How do you think? Why is that on your list?
It's on.
I mean, it's a great movie. It's a powerful movie, but why? Sigourney Weaver. She's like Bruce Lee.
Again. Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Again, strong, powerful.
What's your mom like?
Um.
She like this?
No.
You are. You want to be like that.
I hope
Maybe.
so. I hope so.
Well, I
hope
kind
have
of
some
think
that
that
in me.
yeah.
I think, just the fact that Sigourney Weaver's character, Ripley, did what needed to be done. And she faced her fears. I mean, one of the great things about that movie is after what had happened in the first film, she is absolutely destroyed. She is kind of a shadow of her former self at the beginning of the film.
Yeah, she doesn't want to go.
She doesn't want to go. She's
yeah.
terrified. She's plagued by nightmares. And she wants to get as far away from what happened as possible. And, greed, the possibility of having some sort of redemption in terms of her stature, all kind of, and then just the idea of facing her fears.
And becoming a mother figure.
Yeah, I mean, all of that, she goes, and then when everything goes awry, when the shit hits the fan, so to speak, she rises to the occasion so beautifully. And there's just such a lack of kind of, it's exactly what you said. She becomes this maternal figure, and there's a lack of kind of self-preservation, and it really is about protecting Newt and doing what needs to be done.
And her inner child. I know that sounds stupid, but I write about kids.
Yeah.
Lately.
Yeah.
And it's it's perhaps a little bit about protecting that and standing up for that innocent part
For the
of
innocence.
you.
Yeah.
And protecting that. And metaphorically, beautifully, Tool, metaphorically, is a child.
Yeah. And, and there's a lot of humor in that movie. I mean, the character of
Bill
Hudson.
Paxton.
Bill Paxton
Oh, the great Bill Paxton.
Hilarious in that movie. And there's so much danger. I remember, even now when I watch it, I still find myself kind of on the edge of my seat. And I've seen it so many times, I can basically tell you what frame is coming up next. And it doesn't matter. There's still so much. It's so beautifully shot in the sense that the tension is just palpable throughout the whole movie.
Oh, he's a master at that.
Yeah.
A master. Ooh, look at that lining. All right, so what do you think? Do you think your life would have been somehow different? You would have turned left instead of right, or you would have made this decision instead of that decision, little or big, if you hadn't seen Aliens? You know what I mean? What I'm asking?
I do know. I don't know. I think much like Flashdance and even Enter the Dragon, I think that the common thread of these movies is about strength, and I've just been attracted to strength and been attracted to people who can face adversity. And it's not out of, and it's really not out of kind of like pomp and circumstance of trying to puff themselves up, but it's really about protection of the things and the what they love.
Right.
And there's a higher kind of purpose to it and a calling. And so I think that's part of what I'm talking about. And just that facing of your fear, your deep, dark fear. Anytime I find myself afraid of something, other than like, you know, my mortality or something super, super dangerous, but when I feel myself where I'm like, I don't know if I can do that, where I doubt myself, that's a time where I feel extremely motivated that I have to try.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
When I feel that sense of like, oh, I don't know if I can, I move through that. I urge myself to move through it and at least try.
So even if you don't, when you're in certain situations, even if you don't like consciously think of Bruce Lee or Jennifer Beals or Sigourney Weaver in these movies, somehow you saw these things in this incredibly powerful medium of being in a black box and seeing 40 feet high on a screen, these powerful things. That these things, how old are you in 1986? Well, you already spilled the beans.
I was 14.
So you were 14.
So,
so these very formative years from 5 to 14, these 10 years of building who you are as a human, you saw something in these characters that was perhaps, and I'm thinking out loud, I don't know what I'm talking about, but perhaps there was a deficiency in you, or you knew that this is, I need to, you're drawn to these characters perhaps because you knew that these are qualities that you wanted to be a part of your life and your personality and your drive, or you felt like unconsciously maybe you needed that.
I definitely needed it.
Okay, why do you think you needed it?
Well,
you can tell me to screw off if I get too personal, but that's what the...
No, I mean, that's the point of things. You know, my childhood was very volatile. My mother was in abusive relationships, and my father was around, but he didn't live with us. So the lack of kind of, I always felt unsafe. There was a lot of, I grew up with a lot of anxiety, and I always felt kind of frightened. You know, because I never knew what was going to happen in those situations.
Huh, okay.
So I think that that's a very big part of why I was looking for strength and why I had such a pull towards people who faced fears and overcame them. You know, even mortal fears. So, yeah, it makes sense to me now that I'm kind of putting the pieces together alongside you. I mean, because you asked the question, and I thought about it, and I put together this list. But when I look for the through line, when I look for the overall arc of it, it's really about freedom from your fears.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, freedom from your fears and dealing with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a cool, well, but in kind of a cool. Quite cool way.
Right.
I don't know why that's the catchphrase of this episode. Quite cool. You know, folks. All right. Well, it's nearing time for a commercial, so we're going to have to end this segment and end the after show video, or I'm going to call them now the third act video. So if you want to watch this segment video, go to facebook.com/Francis von Zerneck or at FVZHeadful. Or YouTube, Francis von Zerneck's Headful of Useless Information. In a moment when... thank you, Pam, for filming this.
Yeah,
I think we
thank
can
you.
cut now.